Here we're talking about how nature study can change you. And you can think of it as a three-step process. The first step is maybe the most simple and most fun, and that step is that you simply start looking at something like this. We're in southwestern Texas right now, and this is a very common bush growing around where I'm staying called Damianita. And when I look at this flowering head, I can start seeing all kinds of details without even having access to a magnifying glass. I can see that this little head is composed of two kinds of flowers called a disc flower and a ray flower, that each one has both male and female parts in it, which means that there are stamens producing pollen, the male part, and then there's the female part, the pistil, consisting of the stigma, style, and ovary, and the stamens in this particular plant family are all grown together. The anthers are. So what I've just done is that for a few moments I've thrust my mind into a blossom, into several blossoms. I have replaced my everyday thoughts about what am I going to eat, what am I going to wear, who am I going to see, why is my back hurting, etc., etc., with thoughts about what's inside this flower, how the flower is arranged. I filled my head with color. I'm outside where there's fresh air and it's very pleasant. And the Damianita bush smells good. It's very, very aromatic. So the first step in nature study is that you start noticing things, and as you figure them out, usually that consists of trying to figure out what the name is so that you can get on the internet and look up the name and find out what plants like this Damianita are good for, how they serve a function in ecology, what you can do with them. I've made a tea out of this. In some places it's considered medicinal. What are the medicinal uses? Very interesting stuff. But in the process of getting the name, I fill my head with all these wonderful sensations. Out go the thoughts about where am I going to get my next meal, and in come thoughts about how pretty this is. So that is the first step. The second way that nature study changes you is that once I leave this place and I'm no longer thinking about Damianita, maybe I'm just thinking about a little grass that's growing here. And I go through the same process with it. And then there's a bird flying around here in the ash junipers. What's that bird? What's its distribution? Is it found only in this little tiny part of Texas? Or is it something that you can see all the way from Canada to Central America? What's its behavior? Is it here only during the summer? In other words, as you wander the landscape, you see more and more. You understand more and more as you go through that first step we talked about, where you see something, you thrust your mind into it, you get the name and you look it up. As you learn more and more and more about nature, a process that takes years, you're going to start seeing some very valuable insights. And that is how nature, how reality is put together, how it's so complex, how everything depends on everything else. These are insights that change you. It kind of makes you think in terms of philosophy. why is everything so beautiful? Why is everything so interconnected? And why is everything evolving? When we study the history of life, we see that it started out simple with just one living thing apparently, and it diversified, it broke up into many species, and now we have a world around us with thousands and thousands and thousands of different species, all interconnected. What's going on here? These are philosophical and indeed spiritual questions. So that's the second way the nature study affects you. You learn a lot, you get an insight, and these insights direct you to higher levels of spirituality, and it feels good. It makes you a different kind of person. And in fact, this third change is precisely on a spiritual level. And I can't say much more about it at that point, because at that point it becomes very personal. It's just you, your brain, the world around you, and what you can make out of it all. And when you have this rich background of intimacy with nature over years, your insight is beautiful, and it gives you something to live for. It adds a texture and a meaning to your life that maybe it didn't have before. So there are three ways that nature study affect us.